Unfortunately, obviously the accident hits and hospital's a very lonely place. The injuries I sustained, mental illness hit with a bit of a vengeance. Samuel Hall, I'm 23 from Camden. Growing up, I was a bit of a shy, timid kid, I was definitely, I wasn't very out there, a lot different to what I am now, but very shy, very timid, very sports orientated. I was a good kid. I had my moments though. I definitely had my moments. I'm sure my parents will attest to that. Growing up, sort of the first struggles I actually dealt with were my parents actually separated, and that took a pretty big toll on me. Obviously, being a young man, my dad was the father figure and everything like that. And growing up, my mum remarried, had more children, and I couldn't be more fortunate for that. In saying that, I wasn't the nicest person, especially to my stepfather growing up. It took a lot of time for me to grow as a person and become accepting of that sort of thing. Definitely coming from the split family, it hurt, man. I was at my dad's every weekend. I was at my mum's all week for school. My dad's for soccer. That was our thing. School and home life was my mum's thing, and it made it tough growing up. I lived a very privileged life at both houses. I can't say I didn't do that. That's for sure. But I'm sure anyone who comes from a split family will attest to the fact that it's not easy when you're growing up. So the biggest actual turning point in my life was I was 18 years of age. I was a week away from sitting my HSC, and the first time ever I actually let someone drive my car. First time, best mates for 10 years, 10 years plus I should say, and people who were pretty much family to me had never driven it, and for the first time ever I let someone drive my car who I didn't really know. The young girl was from Manly, I'm from Camden, 2 worlds apart. She was an L-plater, disqualified from driving for 4 years, speeding on an unsealed road, not wearing a seatbelt. Unfortunately, as I said, I was a week away from sitting my HSC and started my HSC in a coma. 9 days, about a 20% chance of survival. If I did survive, they didn't know whether I'd walk, I'd talk, I'd do anything. And here I am sitting here today talking to you like it's nothing. Man, that was some pretty hefty stuff. I suffered some pretty rough injuries. Shattered my C2 vertebrae, second from the top, broke multiple ribs, lost that part of my hand. That was 4th degree burns that resulted in them amputating it. So, but the worst one's actually the ones you can't see, I should say, and that's the brain injury that resulted in me being placed in a coma for 9 days. And there are quite a lot of long-term effects from that, but obviously the mental illness side of things, man. Before the accident, I defeated mental illness. 3 months, no medication, not seeing anyone, I was in the best position I'd ever been in my life. Unfortunately, obviously the accident hits and hospital's a very lonely place. And the injuries I sustained, everything like that, mental illness hit with a bit of a vengeance. Back to seeing people, back to being medicated, depression, anxiety, PTSD. My personality was actually changed quite a lot as well. And realistically, it redirected the course of my life. I was playing football, playing representative football, was loving life, potential to go live in America and play in college, and any chance of that I was told I'd never play a sport again, never play contact sport. So in my eyes, as an 18-year-old male, not much else mattered than football. And yeah, dude, it, as I said, redirected the course of my life. So rehabilitation started about 5 days a week. Once I got out of hospital, and obviously during hospital I had to learn to walk, talk, all that sort of stuff again. But yeah, the mental aspect of things is still continuing today. We're nearly 5 years down the track, and yeah, it's pretty intense. I went through some very intense mental battles with myself. I've put my family through some very intense mental battles, not only at the time of the accident, but since then. The rehabilitation side of things, I still see a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I've actually flicked through a couple of different psychologists. We didn't find that connection. I've changed my medication here or there. Some people don't believe in it, but the medication I'm on at the moment, if I miss my morning medication, I tell you what, you'll know about it. It certainly keeps me at a good level. But a couple of years down the track, I fought my enemies, fought my demons. Things became a little bit too much. I think it was about 2.5, maybe 3 years after the accident. I got to a point in my life where it was enough. I couldn't deal with what I was going through, this or that, and it was either I put my hand up for help or I didn't think I was going to be here anymore. So, I waved the white flag, I gave in, and, I put my hand up and said, I need help. I was receiving ongoing help from outside, my support from my family, my friends, and everything I can't fault. But just because you're surrounded by people doesn't mean you can't be lonely. You know what I mean? So I put my hand up, I waved that white flag, and I admitted myself to hospital. And, I did a 3.5 week stint at Liverpool Private. And, man, it saved my life. It truly did. And, you think you got it pretty bad, depression, anxiety, PTSD, but when I got in there, I was the youngest person. It took a lot for me to put my hand in the air and say, I need the help, I'm going to go and get it. I was the youngest person in there by far, and I thought I'd seen some things, but, the people I shared 3.5, 4 weeks with, whatever it was, in there was, it was pretty intense, it was pretty moving. And, I took a lot away from that stay, and as I said, it saved my life. But in all honesty, it didn't take too long for me to find rock bottom again. I pushed pretty hard, and, there's only so much you can do for so long before you burn yourself out. And I was pushing myself pretty hard, and unfortunately with the brain injury, my brain actually works 2 to 4 times harder than a normal person's. So take a busy day for yourself and times it by 2 or 4, and that's the physical impact is fine, but that's the mental impact it will have on myself. So I burnt myself out again, and I found that low point, but it was actually lower than the low I'd found before. And I had my strategies, I was medicated, I had my strategies, I had my supports, but it didn't feel like it was enough for me. And rock bottom's a scary place. I'm sure anyone who's been there will attest to that. And rock bottom is, you can find yourself standing on the edge, you can find yourself going 10Ks, 20Ks over on the highway, you can find yourself just catastrophizing everything in your head. And I put my hand up, man, I waved that white flag, and I went back into hospital. This time I was at Wentworthville, and that stay genuinely saved my life. Like I put my hand on my heart and tell you, man, like the people I met as young as me, younger than me, the facilities, the people who ran the group sessions, my psychologist, my psychiatrist, the ongoing support from outside, the ongoing support from inside was just incredible, man. It's honestly, if I didn't take that forward step, that was so hard, I wouldn't be here today. So yeah, at the moment, man, I'm as I said, I'm working before and after school care, still finishing out my traineeship through via correspondence. I've had to take a bit of extra time with that due to my mental health barriers and obviously my brain injury as well. It makes it pretty tough to get study done, and at the end of the day, that's just my life now. I can try and fight it all I want, but it's not going to change. So finishing that off, I love my job. I love doing what I'm doing. I'm actually part of a private mentoring program, very selective, and that's done absolute wonders for me so far. In my whole life, I'd finished one book that was like 30 pages long. This year alone, since March, I've actually finished 9 books. So, and as someone with a brain injury as well, and I get about 15 minutes of reading before I need a nap, man. It's I'm powering ahead. I'm actually in a really good place mentally, and when I say I'm in a really good place mentally, I have my struggles, dude. I do. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'm perfect, and my life is I'm walking on the yellow brick road. It's just not what happens. In the click of my fingers with depression, anxiety, PTSD, things can change. But I have the tools, I have the mechanisms, I have the supports in place from friends and family, as well as obviously the people I deal with medically. I have those supports in place to put my better foot forward and strive through things. Lots of work on my mindset, lots of taking a positive out of a negative situation instead of catastrophizing the negative situation and making it worse than what it actually is. And when I say that, I still do it. I'm guilty of it. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I wasn't. I'm changing my default. That's what I'm putting my better foot forward. I'll say it 100 times more. And I'm trying to develop myself, trying to push myself. It's tiring, it's exhausting, but I'm trying to push myself to become the best version of me. And if you knew me, it's pretty cliche, but if you knew me 6 months ago from now, a year ago from now, 3 years ago, definitely 5 years ago, I'm a different person, man. I'm only getting better. I'm aware though, I'm very self-aware. It's always in the back of my mind. Although I'm not letting it control me, it's always there, that if one little thing happens, my world could crumble. My literal world will crumble in front of me, and I could be all the way back down to ground zero, if not worse. And that's the beauty of living with mental illness, man. Some days you never know how you're going to wake up. You don't know if one slight split second is going to change your mood, essentially the course of your life. I've learned that personally, man. I made a silly decision to let someone drive my car, and it completely changed the course of my life forever. So you never take things for granted. That's certainly what I would say.